Hey everyone, this is Vlad. You can find me on eToro as VladB35. I'm the silly behind Silly Markets.
And I am Levi. You guys can find me on eToro as Lizzie Apukaya, and I'm the guy behind Bullbrain.
For the next 30 minutes or so, join us for some hopefully intriguing conversations about what drove the markets.
And also what to expect going forward.
Together, we are the Silly Bulls.
Alright guys, here we go again, yet another episode, and today we are going to talk about the Metaverse. Why the Metaverse? I think this is one of the hottest topics out there that keeps investors and a lot of people on the edge of their seats about finding out more about what the Metaverse is. Should we care about it? And if we do, if we actually decide that we do, how could we invest in it? So today's episode will be all about these topics, and I want to start with the personal memory or experience on this. So I think we all remember a couple of months ago, this whole buzz started with the news that Facebook is changing its name to Meta. We all saw that super high quality video from Mark Zuckerberg about he wants to move the world basically into his own metaverse. And my first impression, my first take on the whole thing was like, no thanks, but no thanks. This whole Ready Player One thing didn't really hit me. I was super skeptical about this thing ever gonna happen. In fact, I was seriously thinking about shorting Facebook or Meta because of taking this direction. But obviously, since other companies are following suit, Microsoft just bought Activision recently. So the Metaverse is happening, but still, it's a super important question that we touch base on. What the heck the Metaverse actually is. So Vlad, buddy, I throw this right at you. In your opinion, in your take, what the Metaverse is?
I tend to agree with you on an idea from before. I've seen Zuckerberg, we've all seen him, and we've heard about this Metaverse. And yeah, I was skeptical, to say the least. I didn't think that we were that much into that sad future. I was not thinking about shorting Facebook, but I wasn't ever gonna play this metaverse thingy. But then, Microsoft decided to buy Activision. They decided to make a $70 billion investment, which of course is gonna give them a very big edge in the gaming industry. But besides this, it's gonna give them a very big edge in the metaverse industry. And because I do have a hell of a lot of respect for Microsoft, I said, okay, this is something that's worth looking into. So what is the metaverse? The metaverse is a universe. It's a digital universe that's basically based on augmented and virtual reality. That it's based on some social concepts that, in short, it's mimicking the real world. It actually lets you get a head of VR headset, put it on, and you transcend into this metaverse.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think this was my understanding too. Again, the first parallel I drawn was with this Ready Player One thing, when there is this virtual universe that you can enter with your, let's call it, I don't know, an avatar. That kind of character that you create by yourself or for yourself or from yourself. You imagine this ugliness is being translated into a sort of like this pixely thingy. But anyways, I was thinking along these lines, and you know what? The first thing that struck me about this whole metaverse thing was that it's kind of funny. In some ways, in some sense, we already live in some kind of metaverse for about 10, 15 years now, if you really think about it. Like the way how we, people say that the metaverse will be the place where we can work and interact and meet and play and go out and have fun and all these kind of things that we would do in the real life, but we can do in this digital universe. And again, in some funny ways, I think we already live in a metaverse, because if you think about it, in the last decade or so, we did all these things, especially since the virus and since the pandemic sent most of us into a lockdown in the last 2 years. So obviously this accelerated this whole procedure. But the thing is, again, in the last 10 years, we meet, we work, we go out, we hang out, we have fun, we play. in some sort of virtual space that is the internet. So because of that, I don't think the metaverse is like super new in terms of the concept that, you know, bring these everyday activities into a virtual space. Instead, it seems to me that the way how we interact with this virtual space that used to be this flat screen in front of us, like the same that we do right now, is the way how we interact with this virtual space going to change and going to evolve and going to become something that is more immersive, more realistic, something is much more closer to the reality, you know, as we live it. So my next question from this, okay, so I think we can both touch base that this is what the metaverse is or supposed to be, but when the news hit the markets, this whole thing seemed to be super, like, you know, unrealistic at this stage. And I'm really interested in your opinion and where do we stand in terms of, you know, from now between when we can say that, hey buddy, see you in the metaverse tonight or see you in one of those, you know, virtual events tonight. So how far off are we from this whole thing to become mainstream and to happen?
All right, so then there's two angles for this. First of all, I think that the technology is still not there yet. As you said, thankfully, your ugliness cannot be transcended into into an avatar yet. Right now, the metaverse is basically these Minecraft dudes, these blocky characters, or in some other metaverses, the characters might get a bit more smoother, but it's still not you there. We are still lacking these, you know, first, I mean, in-person experience to actually transverse everything into the metaverse yet. Second of all, we lack this worldwide adoption. I mean, how many people do you personally know that actually own a VR headset? And these things, exactly, these things are expensive and they're not produced on a large scale yet. There's still some how to put it, some redundancy, you know, to actually adopt this. It's very futuristic. It seems very cool. Exactly, it's very futuristic. It's very cool. It's very nice. But I think you are still a few years behind it, you know, until you can actually say, okay, buddy, see you in the metaverse.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, what you say, that was the first thing that came to me, that, you know, expectations versus reality. I mean, this whole metaverse and this whole virtual reality thing is nothing new. I mean, there were projects like Second Life, and, you know, talks and discussions about creating a virtual world where people can hang out and do all sorts of shady things they otherwise do. Is this whole idea is around for at least 10 years, probably even longer. And I remember, yeah, to answer your question, I don't have any friends, any close friends who would say that, look, I just bought this shit, come over and take a look. So yeah, widespread adoption is miles away. But still, again, looking back at those, maybe a couple of years ago, I went to one of these stores, and there was one of these extra VR headsets on display. I tried it off, and the guy and the shop assistant told me that, oh my God, you know, this is gonna blow you away. And no, it didn't. I mean, I expected something, and then I saw what I saw was like, well, like playing a Nintendo from the 90s. I'm old enough to remember that. So, and again, what I hear from others, whoever tried it, you know, it's not so immersive. It's quite weird. It's a bit spooky, and some people say that they got sick and everything. So yeah, the technology used to be quite far away from pulling this whole thing out, but I think these things are changing. I mean, on the other hand, I saw some projects from like a company called Unity, which I'm going to talk about a bit later because they are an important player in this space. But again, I saw this virtual space that they basically designed and created in Unity, and it was amazing. It was so super realistic. I just imagine that if I can enter this and, you know, walk around, that would be like, wow, yeah, amazing. But again, even that project is a bit far off. Okay, so enough said on this, I think. So what we can agree on that the widespread adoption of the metaverse and VR technologies are still still a bit further out than around the corner. So I think this really brings us to another interesting question. If the technology itself is in a fairly early stage and the adoption is in a fairly early stage, then the same could be said about, you know, investing in this technology and investing in companies who we think that are going to benefit from this trend in the future. You mentioned already Microsoft, we spoke about Facebook, Meta, everything. So I am super keen on not going crazy, not loading up super heavy, especially not in these days when tech stocks are, you know, quite volatile.
But we talked about it last week.
About
let me actually stop you right there, because before we actually go to this point where we talk about how to invest in the metaverse, I mean, we've talked about the limitations of it, but then we still need to see, first of all, what is the game changer? You mentioned before, the metaverse is not something new, is something that has been around and investors have actually heard about this metaverse thingy a long time ago, and they were not phased. They were not phased about it because this metaverse was pretty much limited to gaming, and gaming required a lot of hardware, required a lot of software. It was still choppy. So there was a new step that needed to happen. Before we can actually talk about these different metaverses, I want to disagree with Zuckerberg. I'm not, maybe it was not even him, but still a very big tech CEO. And he actually stated and emphasized that he expects everything, with an emphasis on everything, to move into the metaverse. And I personally think that this is, I mean, thankfully, we are still far away from this Black Mirror thingy, where, you know, you would go on Tinder in the metaverse. That's something that nobody would want. But still, I think that it's going to affect the way we work and maybe even the way we have fun. So let me put it like this: since the beginning of the pandemic, we've all or most of us have gone online. Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, they've been at the forefront of these hybrid and work from home approach. And to be honest, I think to some extent it's going to stick. Now imagine that instead of, you know, just staring at the screen, sometimes even turning off your camera and going on your phone, just imagine that you put on a headset and then you can actually see your colleagues making a presentation. You can put on a headset and then meet with your colleagues from thousands of kilometers away, and then you just sit at a table and brainstorm ideas. That's, I think, is going to, you know, change the way we work in the first, at least the way we work. But then we actually have another angle. So let's not even talk about gaming. Gaming is the reason why this metaverse even started existing. But then now imagine you put on a headset and then you go with your friends to a concert. You go with your friends to a football game. You go with your friends and then you become characters in a movie. As I said, we are years away from that. But I think that distant future is not so distant anymore. Which this advantage that it's so diverse, it will actually give us a lot of opportunities in terms of investing. And yeah, I think now will be the time to go back to that initial question: how to invest in this new thing, this metaverse.
I think there are the obvious ways, right? So there are companies who are sort of developing and working on the metaverse, and it's super important to ask the question at this stage: how should we imagine the metaverse once it's up and running? Is it like the internet that is not really controlled by anyone? Can we imagine like sort of like a decentralized virtual space like the internet itself, but the metaverse? Or should we imagine metaverses there's the Meta, Facebook metaverse, there is a Microsoft metaverse, there is a Baidu metaverse. So will each and every huge tech companies have their own metaverse? And if I want to meet with one of my friends, I have to go into this one, but if I have to want to play with that game, I need to go to that one. So is this how we should imagine? Or it will be, sort of united or unified in some ways? And I lean towards the later. So I think it will be like a cross platform that is not, there's no clear limitations between two metaverses. Or let's put it this way, as an investor, I try to invest in companies that are moving towards this direction. This takes us to the companies themselves. So I think one way to play this is definitely through these companies, Meta, Microsoft, Google, basically the huge tech companies who do have the infrastructure, the resources, and the talent to pull a project of this scale, just pull it out and make it happen. On the other hand, we talked about the chip makers, but chip makers is an area that I'm not really some of my strongest suits. So I pass this back to you, buddy. In your take, how could chip makers be a potential angle to play the metaverse?
Okay, so first of all, I think I'm on the same line with you. I think we will have different metaverses, and then once you want to make the switch, you just press a button, do whatever, go into a new server, and that's it. Because as I said before, these different metaverses, they will have different purposes. You want to go out to a movie, you go to a metaverse. You want to watch a football game, another metaverse. You want to play a game, another metaverse. So I don't actually, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not gonna claim otherwise, but to be honest, I still see every different thing as as different. So in my way, in my point of view, how to invest this, I think at this point it is limited. If you as an investor, if you want to play the metaverse, you are limited to the big tech. I don't think the the smaller players have too much to say in it. But there is one silver lining in this, is that the range of players where you can pick from is very broad. So as you said before, you can actually invest in those that create the metaverses. So yeah, Meta, aka Facebook, aka whatever, Microsoft, Unity. You actually have those that are the biggest players in AI. So Google, or if you want to go on the other side of the ocean, Baidu. And I'm sure we can actually scratch our head and find some other Chinese players. Then you need fast computations for these. So first of all, you will need chip makers for these. So you would have first of all Taiwan TSM, Taiwan semiconductor manufacturer. Then you would have Intel, Nvidia, AMD, Samsung. I mean, you have a very big range of plays available, of options. Then you should also go and see who supports these fast computations in the online spectrum. So perhaps Amazon, with their cloud computing and everything. Then if you have everything set in terms of computations, you can actually play it with those that create the hardware that's available. So you go back to Meta, that has Oculus Rift. You can go back to Samsung, that also creates a lot of devices. Most recently, I read about Apple also coming out with their own version of the VR headset. So there are a lot of different plays. There is also the crypto play, which I'm not really averse enough to talk about. Maybe you are, so that I'm gonna really pass it back to you. And I also want to ask you, do you see any other play that's available for this meta future?
Yeah, there are some. I mean, I'm totally with you on all the different companies and different angles you just said. Again, I think we both agreed on that. There's these huge companies from the software side of things, like huge tech. Again, we come back to these names like Microsoft. And again, what you said about the physical, the hardware side of things, Oculus Rift and whatever other device is going to come up. And in this sense, I would also look wider. Yes, Apple is big, and we all know who Apple is and what league Apple plays at. Let's put it this way. But I think there are some other companies that can be up and running in the device side, like Huawei or
Xiaomi.
Sure. Xiaomi, thank you. Yeah,
of course.
Or Xiaomi. But I don't want to go too deep on this side, because again, your question was that what else and what different angles could we look at? And I think one very interesting angle to look at the creation and the adoption of the metaverse is that yes, people need chips and these kind of components to run these applications and programs, but I would take one more step back and look at the actual digital infrastructure, like, and I'm talking about data centers and basically, yeah, the servers that make this whole thing possible. And if you want to invest into these, you need to invest in a REIT, like a real estate investment trust, because there are actually specific real estate investment trusts, again, REITs, that are specializing in data centers. And I think that's again a very interesting angle to look at, because again, the main reason for me at least is that these companies, these REITs, are still fairly undervalued compared to Microsoft or Unity. If you take a quick look at Unity, and in that sense, I would separate Unity from the big guys, because Unity is like, it's building the metaverse, but not in the way how for example a data center would do it. So Unity is designing these actual virtual spaces within the metaverse that yeah, again, based on what I saw, supposed to be stunning. So if you're looking at companies like Unity or even Microsoft, or not necessarily Microsoft, but looking at these tech companies, the general team, regardless of what happened in the last couple of weeks in the markets and how volatile things are, these tech companies are fairly overvalued, versus a REIT that is no one gives a shit about real estate investments these days. This means that these companies are still fairly undervalued. So I would definitely look into that space as well. And now we talked about the tech companies, the devices, and the physical hardware, the infrastructure, the chip makers, even real estate. And you just mentioned the crypto angle. Now, at this point, I have to say, and I'm happy to blame and happy to take some grilling for this. I'm fairly new to the crypto space. The main reason for that is that I was super skeptic about cryptos in general in the last couple of months and years. And it's the metaverse that started to change my views on cryptos. So there are some cryptos out there, Engine, for example, the Decentraland, Zcash, all these cryptos that are designed to be used within the metaverse. Because if you think about this, and this is a very interesting angle, you have a digital currency, and for some reason you want to use that digital currency in the real world. I never really understood how would that be possible. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna have lots of comments who are trying to explain me. Guys, save your breath. I'm still, I'm learning slowly. But when it comes to digital,
don't save your breath. Don't save your breath and go all in on those comments, guys.
Oh, okay. So yeah, actually, whatever you do, whatever you want to do. But again, back to this crypto thing. So I can perfectly understand the purpose and imagine how digital currencies can succeed in a digital universe, full stop. And because of that, I'm turning bullish on these cryptos, even though I could manage to buy into these a couple of weeks ago when it was like, and now they are, but it is what it is. But again, this whole crypto and NFT, the non-fungible token thing, is very interesting in the sense of the metaverse, because obviously you can own something and create and own something within the metaverse that you can prove, and it can be clear that it's yours. It can't be duplicated, it can't be stolen. well, at least they say it can't be, and then shit happens. But anyway, just to come back to you, buddy, on this, I'm still learning my way around. I'm gonna post analysis. I'm gonna try to yeah, to go more detail on this on either on eToro or on Bullbrain in the forms of articles. For the sake of our conversation, I just would say that cryptos are a high risk, high reward way to look into the metaverse, because if what we said, the metaverse is going to take a bit longer to play out. Imagine that, knowing how volatile cryptos are, if you decide that your choice of poison will be cryptos to get into the metaverse, just be prepared that it's going to be a rocky road or a bumpy road ahead, whereas investing in a company like Microsoft or even real estate might not be so much. I think we pretty much summed up the ways how to invest in the metaverse. Is there anything from you, buddy, would add to this whole conversation?
Not really. And to be honest, I think we can even wrap this up. There is one take that I would leave you guys with. So first of all, as we mentioned before, the metaverse is becoming more realistic, is becoming a bit more palpable, but is still a bit far away in the future. So because of this, and you also have to think that tech and crypto and everything is pretty volatile, and there's a lot of stuff happening around that can affect the stock prices. You also have to think that this metaverse, I mean, you're talking about Microsoft. This metaverse is just a small pie for them. You talk about, I don't know, Meta, Google, Intel. It's small slices for these big companies that even if if you're gonna try to invest in these companies, don't do it right now for Meta. Do it for other reasons and be very, very careful with this. So this is the main takeaway. If you want to invest in the Meta space, do it, but do it carefully. And yeah, be ready for a bumpy road ahead.
Exactly. All right, guys. On this note, I think absolutely, we can wrap this up. Maybe the only thing I would add, both Vlad and I have we regularly write articles and analysis on these companies and on these thoughts to elaborate on the reasons that goes behind our investing decisions. So if you want to check these out, you can do so. Links are below for the silly markets and for Bullbrain too. You can also check us out on eToro. If you like what you see, you can follow us and copy us, and if we are doing well, you're doing well too. So check all these out in the links below. Hit us up with a comment if you have anything to say. I'm gonna catch you guys next time.
And don't forget, like, subscribe, comment, and see you guys next time.